Thank you very much, everyone that joined us and will join us in the next few minutes on our event, on our LinkedIn Live, discussing all about stablecoins. So why are we here and why is this important? We have another 10 days until the first part of MiCA regulating stablecoins. It's going to be applicable. And this is where we have still a lot of questions. What does it mean? Should it be a concern of the users? Should it be a concern of projects, issuers, etc.? Are we ready? Who should be ready? And many more questions. And I'm really, really pleased that we are having here two esteemed guests with us, Dimitris and Jonathan, both working in this area and also sharing a lot of information on this lately, but working on this issue for the past few years. So a short introduction to someone that might be new to the European Crypto Initiative. We are a non-profit association based in Brussels and basically looking into and working on a crypto regulation, giving feedback to any type of institutions, working on responses from the European Banking Authority, European Securities Market Authority, and mostly on MiCA for, let's say, the last 3 years. So now the work we all have done together for the last 5 years has been come to an end. So MiCA will be applicable again in 10 days, and the first part is regulating stablecoins. So I give a very warm welcome to Dimitris. Dimitris is a founder of ValueVerse, a strategy consulting company that specializes on the economics of tokenization, and of course, a board member of GBBC. He was in the past also involved very, very closely with MiCA and other regulations within the parliament. But I will give you also the word to introduce yourself a little bit more extensively. And of course, I would also like to welcome very much Jonathan Galea. Jonathan is a partner at BCAS. That is a lawyer involved in the crypto space from a really long time, from 2013, and consulting a lot of projects, but also working with regulators, with European Banking Authority, etc., on different laws, on the anti-money laundering, transfer funds, MiCA, and different questions. So I'm happy that you responded positively on our invitation, and I'll give you the first word. Please go along with introducing yourself, maybe Dimitris first.
Sure. Thank you, Marina, for the kind invitation. And I also would like to thank you for your contribution to the European Union ecosystem all these years that we're trying to develop a market which may have significant impact to the lives of the people of the European Union, and also generate a paradigm for other jurisdictions as well. Well, I was for 7 years working as economic and monetary policy specialist at the European Parliament, as draftsperson of the blockchain resolution back in 2017 that created the entire framework that now gives headaches and pain to all of you people, and participate in the drafting of every report related to digital finance of the Union, including the crowdfunding platforms regulation, the Title II and Title III of MiCA, and my last regulation before leaving the European Parliament was the DLT pilot regime.
Thank you very much. And yeah, it's amazing to have someone with such a vast experience also from the regulatory side and institutional side. Jonathan, could you introduce yourself as well?
Of course, echoing Dimitris, thanks for your work, Marina, and thanks for the invitation as well. I'm Jonathan, and as you mentioned, a lawyer who's, I think, been in the space for more than long enough. And I started my basically journey when I completed my Doctorate of Law thesis on the subject of Bitcoin and the effect it would have on AML legislation. This was published in 2015. And from 2017 onwards, being, I would say, dedicated full time to crypto law, where we work extensively with, I would say, some of the well-known crypto exchanges, but also crypto networks and the DeFi protocols too, where we assist them with matters such as, again, legal engineering in terms of, again, building a protocol which I would say abides by the, let's say, requirements of the law in the sense that they would fall outside the scope of certain regulatory frameworks, but we also assist projects as well in, I would say, devising solutions, centralized spirit that as well. We also work with exchanges in terms of licensing under frameworks like the upcoming MiCA, so it's not all just work related to the broader crypto industry and the way that we understand it. And we've also worked with multiple regulatory authorities on drafting crypto regulation, which, let's say, takes into consideration the nature of the crypto industry, but without, of course, becoming potentially outdated due to the rapid development of the crypto technology.
Thank you very much. And I will start immediately with the first question. So just for the audience that joined us maybe right now, we are going to have a discussion about 45 minutes and then another 15 minutes for questions. So please, if you have any questions, type it in and we're going to respond later. So the first question goes to Dimitris. I think that would be great to have a little bit of an insight into how the markets in crypto assets regulation was formed, and especially the part around stablecoins, and what was the logic behind that when we think about it from the institutional point of view, regulatory point of view, why the EU wanted to regulate crypto assets and specifically stablecoins?
Very good question. I wonder myself as well. So, well, if you go back in 2019, the idea in the European Commission was to introduce something related to the crypto exchanges. They wanted to generate a framework of legal certainty and regulatory clarity for this new beast. But within the FISMA, having a regulation just about crypto assets, crypto exchanges didn't fly very favorably up to the moment that we experienced the shock of Libra. Libra grasped the attention immediately of all the regulators. I remember a visit I had in the European Parliament by the team of Libra wanted to present the concept. I can give you a little bit of the background. The team of Libra appeared in the Parliament. We had some officials from the European Commission as well. And being very American, they said, the monetary system of the European Union and the payment system are completely incompatible. You have monetary union, you don't have a payments system that can work across the union, and we are here to disrupt you. We are the future of money. Obviously, nobody likes people who knock the door and say, we are here to disrupt you. First, we explained them that we don't believe that Libra is the future of money, and definitely we don't like to be disrupted. And this started the relationship between Libra and the European Union institutions who were super concerned about platforms introducing payment tokens. The initial instinctive response to that was that the European payment system should not function outside of what we call banking system. And this is what actually created the idea and the demand for MiCA. MiCA that would include not just crypto asset service providers regulation, but also stablecoins that come in two flavors. The asset reference tokens, which are MiCA type, which are Libra type tokens, and Tether and Circle type tokens like e-money tokens. Obviously, we wanted the regulation to rule them all, so this included the Title II, the other tokens, utility tokens. People still wonder why non-financial instruments are part of the financial regulation. And this formed what we now call MiCA.
Thank you very much. That was, I think, pretty important. And one of the things that we are discussing right now is how will this affect, in a way, the industry and how it is affecting different, I would say, parts of the industry. First, the issuers, and then on the other side, the crypto asset service providers. Maybe I would go to Jonathan right now to think about if you are stablecoin issuer. What does MiCA say? Like, why and how are we regulating it? And maybe even your opinion, it is good as a regulation? Is it something that we're missing? Very, very broad first question.
First of all, it was very interesting to hear about the Libra story. I mean, I do have certain public comments at times about, again, legislators and their intentions, but I also agree that, again, the legislators demand a certain level of respect. So I agree that, again, having the discussions open in that way is not conducive to, I would say, a beneficial outcome. Going back to your question, Marina. One particular peeve I have with Titles 3 and Titles 4 in particular is that at times the lines between issuers and those conducting public offers and seeking measure to trading are a bit blurred. Both Title 3 and Title 4 require that in order for one to conduct a public offer or seek measure to trading, they must first and foremost be an issuer. That is undisputed. But then they go on to say that if you're doing a public offer or intend on seeking measure to trading, well, in the case of Title 3, you must be a legal person and you must have the white paper approved by the competent authority. Under Title 4, you must be either an EMI or accredited institution. The form for the issuance per se of ARTs or EMTs is not prescribed. The only exception to this is under Article 48 sub Article 2, where the legislator states that upon the issuance of an EMT referencing an official currency of the Union, so of course that includes the euro, that issuance, ipso iure, by power of the law itself, that is deemed to be offered within the Union. What that means, and the main question is, what about, let's focus on Title 4 for now, because I think, again, most of the concern is about EMTs. What if you have an EMT which does not reference an official currency of the Union? And I simply issue it. Case in point. Let's imagine that I'm a Swiss national, setting up a Swiss GmbH, and I issue a stablecoin, or rather an EMT, referencing the US dollar. I am not publicly offering it to anyone in the Union, and I do not intend on seeking distribution to trading on any trading platform within the Union. Would I be in purview of MiCA? Would I be within, I would say, the jurisdiction of national competent authorities? Under MiCA, in my opinion, I would not. Because I am not performing a public offer or seeking measure to trading. And therefore, in the very first place, I don't even need to draft, notify, and publish a white paper in compliance with MiCA. Because Article 48.1 clearly states that it is only required if I'm doing a public offer to someone in the Union or seeking admission to trading. So there's a lot of debate at the moment in terms of whether Title 4 applies to issuers indiscriminately, or whether it applies to issuers who are doing a public offering or seeking admission to trading. My opinion is that it applies to the latter rather than the former, because otherwise, under MiCA, the competent authorities would be claiming jurisdiction over anyone in the world doing an issuance of an EMT. And the law only states that only such jurisdiction is only being claimed globally, I would say, on anyone who is issuing an EMT which references an official currency of the Union. So since the law is silent on any other kind of, let's say, EMTs which do not reference an official currency of the Union, I would venture to say that issuers, once again, not doing a public offering or seeking measure to trading within the Union, would not be scope of MiCA, because still an EMT is broadly defined, and an EMT which references one official currency is still an EMT, but the issuers themselves would not be within scope of MiCA. So the conclusion of what I just said right now is that if one is an issuer of an EMT which references an official currency of the Union, in 10 days, you need to comply with MiCA, and you must either be an EMI or a credit institution. Simple as. If you are an issuer of an EMT, which does not reference an official currency of the Union, but references an official currency of a non-Union member state, then unless you're going to do a public offering or seek admission to trading, it's business as usual. ARTs, same thing. If you're not doing a public offering or seeking admission to trading within the Union, then I would say, again, Title 3 is not really of much relevance.
Jonathan, may I ask a question to clarify the point? If I issue a token, an e-money token, that is backed by euros, but I call it strawberry token.
Okay.
In this case, does this fall under the scope of MiCA? Should I have a credit institution and a money institution license in order to offer it in Zimbabwe?
Very good question, and I would say no. The reason is that the definition of EMT makes strict reference to the mode of reference,
Tinkering.
but not the reserves. And this is another point which I saw cropping time and time again on public fora, including on LinkedIn, which states that the modality of reserves affects the classification of a crypto asset. It's not true. The reserves are rather an obligation by which an issuer caught under MiCA have to abide by. We have to separate the criteria which lead to the classification of a crypto asset and obligations imposed upon issuers which are within purview of MiCA. They are not the same thing. And to bring an example to this, if an EMT is issued and publicly offered, let's say, in compliance with MiCA, let's say in 10 days' time, and the reserves are fully there, there's full compliance with MiCA. It's an EMT through and through. Occurs, and it transpires that only 50% of the required reserves were maintained. That EMT doesn't stop being an EMT. It still is an EMT because it purports to maintain a stable value by referencing to the value of an official currency. But since the reserves are not fully there, then the issuer is in breach, and of course would possibly have action taken against it by the competent authority.
So there is another question. When you basically mentioned, and this is really a broad question to both of you, you mentioned both e-money tokens as a reference tokens. I think that most of the debate is really, as you mentioned, around e-money tokens. But what happens to the tokens that are already listed and offered and issued, and not the ones that still need to be, let's say, listed in the EU? I think this is the main question that everyone is kind of debating.
It's a very hot one, and I have my take, but perhaps if Dimitris would like to go first, but I do have my opinion on it as well.
Well, my opinion would be of one line only. We have a deadline by the 30th of June. This is true, but it doesn't mean anything as long as you don't have CASPs by the 31st of December. This is my response to that.
I agree, first of all, but I would like to be a bit more adventurous as well. There's a difference between seeking admission to trading and self-admission to trading. This is highlighted very clearly under Title 2 because the legislator does differentiate between trading platforms self-admitting to trading and those who seek admission to trading on a trading platform. So since the legislator made this difference, clearly the two concepts can be separated. Under Titles 3 and Titles 4, there is no mention of self-admitting to trading. The law is silent on that. There is no mention of what I like to term as a hereditary obligation, where the CASP inherits the obligation to publish the white paper, etc. So it means that the legislator does not contemplate self-admission to trading under Titles 3 and Titles 4. In my opinion, what that means is that CASPs can self-admit to trade ARTs and EMTs without having to, I would say, either be an EMR credit institution under Title 4 or have a white paper published and approved under Title 3. Again, that is my interpretation. on the basis of a legal maxim I like to quote, ubi lex voluit, lex dixit. What the law wants to say, the law will say it. If it's silent, then the law allows it. But again, I'm talking about just my opinion over here.
I would like to challenge the interpretation here a little bit. Do we really have EMTs or ARTs unless we have an authorization to have one? I mean, if you are not a credit institution, or if you are not any money institution, you are an individual that just issues a token, says that your token is an EMT or an ART, but practically it is not, because you didn't follow all the process of licensing. You don't have an EMT until the moment you have the authorization to have one. So you have another token that claims to be something, but this is not what actually is over there, right?
But the definition of an EMT or ART does not require authorization. The definition of a CASP, on the contrary, requires you to be authorized in compliance with MiCA.
Can you elaborate on this?
Well, the definition of EMT is a crypto asset which purports to refer to the value of one official currency. It doesn't state that it also has to be authorized in compliance with MiCA.
Okay.
And the definition of a CASP, on the contrary, there is the requirement that need to be licensed in compliance with MiCA in order to qualify as a CASP under MiCA. So in essence, any crypto asset which purports to maintain stable value by referencing to one official currency is an EMT, regardless whether it is authorized under Title IV or otherwise. Well, that would mean, for instance, that I don't know. Let me bring an example. MakerDAO's DAI. It purports to maintain stable value by referencing to the value of the US dollar. Therefore, it's an EMT. Will again MakerDAO, will anyone who is issuing a stablecoin in a more or less decentralized form seek authorization if they're not going to do a public offering or seek admission to trading? They don't need to. If they're only issuing and they're not doing a public offering or seeking admission to trading, they don't need to be authorized. So this whole discussion that I've seen happening time and time again, and the use of the term authorized versus non-authorized EMTs, I don't think it holds water, because the criterion to be qualified as an EMT is a very simple one. If you have a crypto asset rather, which aims to keep a stable value by referencing the value of one official currency, that's it. It's an EMT. You can't have, for instance, a crypto asset which keeps more or less the value at $1 US, but someone has sought authorization for it, so it's an EMT, but someone hasn't sought authorization for it, so that's not an EMT in the latter case. It's not really workable. Plus, it wouldn't even be congruent with the definition as laid out under MiCA otherwise.
You mean consequently that if we have Tether Euro, to give an idea, Tether Euro is an EMT, despite the fact that it is not authorized to be traded and admitted for trading in a European Union because they don't have the appropriate authorization to do so, right?
But you're mentioning an EMT which purports to maintain stable value by referencing the value of one official currency of the EU, which is the euro. Now, 48.2 states that the mere issuance in that case constitutes an offer to the public. So let's I don't know. Let's use Luna's UST, for instance, so that we again don't make reference to any companies which are fully operational today. Terra Luna's UST is an e-money token because it purported to maintain stable value by referencing to the value of the US dollar. Its reserve mechanisms and the means through which it purported to maintain stable value are irrelevant, because its design was always that it was meant to keep a stable value by referencing to the value of $1 US. So it's an EMT. Where its dynamics and reserves, even its overall structure and compliance with MiCA, certainly not. But it's still an EMT. Was it? And let's perhaps go a step further. If it had not been offered to the public in the union, let's imagine that MiCA was applicable. If it hadn't been offered to the public in the union, or anyone from Terra Luna sought its admission to trading on a trading platform in the EU, would they be required to be an EMI accredited institution? I would say no, because again, Article 48.1 clearly makes reference to only those who are doing an offer to the public or seeking digital trading. It does not mention the word issuer, except, of course, for stating that only an issuer who is authorized as an EMI or credit institution can do a public offering or seek admission to trading. But it doesn't say if you do an issuance, you have to be a credit institution or an EMI, which I think is different to what the US is proposing in its stablecoin bill.
So I would just want to put a comment here. It is very important because, again, we have the first time a crypto assets regulation, and we have legal terms right now, and you were discussing about that. So what does MiCA say what an e-money token is? And we do have a lot of terminology that we're using in the industry that might not align identically to the terminology that is now in MiCA. And I would just go to an example that is not related to stablecoins, but to the non-fungible tokens, which we use it in a certain way, but the non-fungible token is now a legal term in a way defined under MiCA, and it's most likely different from what we are using it in the industry. But don't want to change the topic, but it is interesting also for the legal nerds in the group for sure.
Please don't open the discussion about NFTs because
No.
I keep myself accountable for removing NFTs from MiCA in the first place. So
I can just say, however, that again, most NFTs that people think of NFTs are not excluded from MiCA.
I would disagree. Don't listen to Peter Kerstens.
No.
We need to invite him next time.
Leaving Peter aside. No, but ESMA in its consultation paper on and the taxonomy of crypto assets made it clear, but even it's found in the text of the law itself, that in order for a crypto asset to qualify as, let's say, a non-fungible crypto asset as defined under MiCA, the value must be derived both from the unique attributes of the crypto asset and, this is the problematic part, the unique utility of the crypto asset itself. And most NFTs don't have a unique utility ascribed to them. That's the point. But I think we'll be derailing the discussion because I think today is about stablecoins. So
we'll organize another one on NFTs.
Sure.
That will be for sure something interesting before the other part comes into application. But let's go back to stablecoins and think about what is the goal of MiCA. We have 4 different goals, one of which was consumer protection, and the other one was basically protecting the financial system of the European Union, besides the others that are more supporting innovation and giving legal clarity. So if I think about consumer protection and protecting the financial ecosystem in the EU, and think about stablecoins, and think about where we are today, how much clarity do I have as a user to what is going to happen, and how much information do I have if anything will happen in 10 days? And the other one is, how safe will now the European Union be in 10 days when MiCA will be applicable when it comes to stablecoins? And that's the general question to both of you.
Should I start with the second part of the question?
Whatever you prefer.
The idea that stablecoins are going to compromise the effectiveness of the transmission mechanism and of the monetary policy of the European Union is as good as the French monetary economists who were engaged into this discussion during the French presidency, which means that it's not a serious argument. Very practically, the foreign exchange market is dominated by dollar. This didn't result to the dollarization of the European economy for several reasons, mainly because the market of Europe is so deep and so robust, which is afraid of no other currency to dominate the space. So if you would like to to have a broader philosophical discussion about monetary sovereignty, you can find a French philosopher to carry out this discussion. From an economic point of view, I don't see any compromising of the transmission mechanism and the monetary sovereignty of the Union, even if all the tokens we expect to have in Europe are denominated in yuan.
Jonathan?
Then tackling the first point, I guess, what does it mean for users? Nothing changes much in terms of the users. Ultimately, I would say that once again, titles 3 and titles 4 mostly concern those who will be within its purview. So we're talking about those doing a public offer or seeking admission to trading. What changes perhaps from the practical perspective of users, it remains to be seen. For the next 6 months, I think it will certainly remain business as usual. Towards the end of the year, we'll see what's going to happen in terms of the interpretation of the obligations on CASPs in terms of, again, whether they will retain the listing of ARTs and EMTs. I already opined on this position, and I would say that that would be the pivotal point to see whether anything changes from the perspective of users within the EU in terms of what crypto assets they can expect to be given access to once CASPs start becoming licensed and therefore within full purview of MiCA. The only other point I have is I would say, the rather still murky concept and the difference rather between ARTs and EMTs used as a means of exchange versus those used as a means of payment. Now, incidentally, I still have to go in detail through the latest RTs that have been published on, again, how the term means of exchange should be interpreted. There has been some clarity, it seems, provided by ESMA on what should not be seen as a means of exchange, although one of the points which was stated by ESMA is that when the issuer has reasonable grounds to assume the transaction is not to pay for goods or services, it should not be treated as a means of exchange. Just a personal note, I don't like seeing such wording being used because, again, what constitutes reasonable grounds is very subjective. So that would be, I think, my, let's say, rather dissatisfaction with the RTSs as I've read so far. But I think other than that, to go back to your original question, Marina, I'm not seeing much which will change. Definitely not on the peer-to-peer side. But again, it still remains to be seen whether anything will change in terms of the experience when using CASPs.
Any other comments maybe on this, Dimitris? Otherwise, I'll go on with the next question I have.
I usually trigger a second round of questions to Jonathan when pops up in my mind a question coming from people in LinkedIn about this stuff. So I deliberately ask him questions to clarify stuff. I completely agree with what Jonathan has said. This is also what we had in our mind when we actually drafted the texts.
Okay, great. So we have another 15 minutes, and I think it's just time for maybe two other questions. I'll go a little bit outside of the MiCA description of what e-money tokens are and stablecoins in general to the payment services regulation directives and, in general to how we are regulating payment services in the EU and what does it mean for stablecoins, especially the e-money tokens. So this is another topic that maybe most of everyone that is following stablecoins might not be aware of. It was not debated a lot, I would say, until now, because there are a few reasons. One is that this part is being now, I would say, rearranged, discussed within the EU for the next, I would say, the next updated versions of the PSD3 and kind of merging with the e-money. But right now, we still have the existing rules that are in place. And how much are the existing rules connected to the e-money tokens and how much are they connected also to the, I would say, in general, crypto assets there? So I will give the floor to you, and maybe we can also look later into why this is important or problematizing this.
Well, if I may start, Jonathan?
Please.
A little bit of background. The payment services are regulated by PSD2. But already we have in the Parliament Payment Service Directive 3 and a brand new payment services regulation. This indicates the willingness of the Union to harmonize the space of payments. And this has significant links with e-money tokens, which are by default payment stablecoins. Well, I think that the most important part of the payment services regulation is not in an article, but it's in a recital. The recital that says that e-money tokens are funds. This solves a significant misconception we had about the nature of the beast in the European Union, a misconception that is still apparent between the European Central Bank and other central bankers of the Euro system. And this is very important because suddenly we can solve the problem of the last leg for settling financial transactions on chain. This merges the DLT pilot regime with the MiCA regulation. So, very practically, we have a definition here that qualifies payment stablecoins as funds, which is fantastic. UK is 30 years behind this concept. United States is 200 years behind this concept. And this also endangers the position of those who advocate that we need a programmable euro. Because effectively, in terms of the utility, we can solve the problem of the last leg without having an ECB issued digital asset, digital payment token. So this is the link, and we can discuss more on this if you find merit in this kind of discussion. I'm giving the floor back to Jonathan.
All electronic money are funds.
Mm-hmm.
Not all EMTs are electronic money. And I'll explain.
Explains.
This goes back to a point that we were discussing earlier on, Dimitris, where, in essence, the threshold to be an EMT is low and simple. If a crypto asset purports to refer to the value of one official currency, it's an EMT. Electronic money, to use the term, is gated in nature. It can only be issued by an approved authority, and if you want to transact in electronic money, I would say in the vast majority, if not all instances, the transaction is processed through an intermediary, being the appropriately licensed entity, ergo the EMI itself. This is not the case for EMTs. EMTs can be issued by anyone. Let's leave aside EMTs referencing the euro or the official currency of a new member state. EMTs can be issued by anyone. And furthermore, if an EMT is issued by a non-identifiable issuer, MiCA itself states in recital 22 that such issuance would fall outside of scope of titles 2, 3, or 4, or rather the issuer, again, is not bound by titles 2, 3, or 4, title 4 in this particular case. Once again, does that crypto asset stop being an EMT if it's issued by a non-identifiable issuer? No, because the threshold and the qualifications are crystal clear in the regulation itself. So, contrary to electronic money, which are singular in nature, EMTs are not singular in nature. EMTs can be issued as authorized EMTs, to use that term, under MiCA by an EMI credit institution. They can be issued by an identifiable issuer, but again, who's not doing the public offering or seeking digital trading. they can be issued by a non-identifiable issuer, meaning that, again, titles 2 and 3 and 4 don't apply in their entirety. But we're still talking about EMTs over here, in all three instances. So how is this exactly going, again, to be contemplated under the PSD3 and the PSR? Now, my take on this is that in an ideal scenario, the EMTs which would fall within the purview of PSD3 and PSR should only be those EMTs where they're issued by any microcredit institution. So let's call them those EMTs which fall squarely within the remit of Title 4. Other EMTs, because they're still EMTs, but other forms of EMTs, should they fall within the definition of funds as contemplated under the PSD3 and PSR? If they do, I don't see how that can work out, really, because we're talking about instruments which are not issued by a person, which is, I would say, regulated as an EMI credit institution. So, again, I pose the question, how is that going to work out?
Well, if we go 20 minutes before in our conversation whether we substantially have EMTs unless they are licensed to be EMTs, I think this solves the problem, because you have stablecoins if they look like EMTs, but you don't have EMTs. It is the substance, not the form, that qualifies something to be called as EMTs and carry together all the benefits and all the requirements necessary in order to perform activities around this. This makes me a little bit skeptical on the classification, on the very definition of something qualifies being to be an EMT unless it's authorized to be so by the regulatory authority. Because in substance, not in form, they are not EMTs.
They're not electronic money, but they are EMTs.
An EMT is or is not electronic money in the first place. I quote the recital of the Payment Services Regulation. EMTs are qualified as funds. And this is clear on the sentence. This makes me a little bit skeptical on the labeling of something as EMT. It's a stablecoin. It is a stablecoin.
So it would fall under Title 2?
Well, no. There's no other title. Something that tries to be introduced for trading in the European market and does not qualify with all the regulations necessary to get an authorization, then it's a stable coin. It's something that you can call it whatever you want, but it's not an EMT.
So what would be its qualification under MiCA?
Well, if it's not qualified as an EMT, it's not an EMT.
Okay, but okay, so there's ART, EMTs, and other crypto assets under MiCA, financial instruments. How does it qualify?
In order to qualify as an asset reference token, it has to have a MiCA license to do so. If it is qualified as another token, other parameters need to be in place in order to have the certain qualification of the other token. This is my view.
Okay. Let's bring a practical example to the table. DAI by MakerDAO. What is the qualification of DAI under MiCA?
Okay, I will give you qualification of Dimitris Euro token.
No, forget the euro. It references the value.
I cannot qualify because I don't know the token you mentioned.
So okay, let's say that there's okay, Dimitris token. Let's use Dimitris token. You as Dimitris, let's say that you're a Japanese citizen, Japanese resident, and you issue it through a Japanese company. You structure this stablecoin in a manner where you want it, and it is designed to refer to the value of the US dollar. So
Good.
the Dimitris token at all times purports to refer and maintain stable value by reference to the US dollar. So it should always one Dimitris token is one US dollar, right? And we can all agree the US dollar is an official currency. I mean, that much is clear. How would that qualify under MiCA?
In order to be qualified as an e-money token, I need to carry the cross, the burden of the cross, in order to get the authorization of the national competent authority.
I didn't ask about that.
Unless I don't do this, it's not an e-money token.
What is it then?
It's not an e-money token.
No, I'm asking, what is it then? If it's
I
not
don't know what it is, but is it an e-money token? It is not an e-money token. For example, let's say that you, me and Marina, I will give you a nice, very practical example.
Okay.
You, me and Marina issue a token that is a stable coin denominated in a currency, okay? And we have the proceeds of this token in our reserves, right? If you invest out of these reserves, the 99% of those reserves in a repo, and something bad happens, a financial crisis, and we lose all the money, can Marina sue you and me that we didn't follow the MiCA regulation and keep at least 20% of the value of the proceeds in our vault?
But that has no bearing on my question. My question was a simple one. A crypto asset references the value of one official currency. And it is issued by a non-EMI or a non-credit institution, any natural or legal person.
It is a stable coin. It's a stable coin, not defined by MiCA.
But the term stablecoin is not used in MiCA. Nowhere is the word stablecoin. Stablecoin is not a category under MiCA. You only have
exactly
under MiCA.
It's undefined.
So maybe I will go back to, I see our audience is very intrigued by this topic. We have a lot of questions, and I think you responded to some of them. So the question is, what do the national competent authorities say? And this is from Victor. He's a lawyer as well from France.
Sure, but just to conclude, God forbid that we come to a situation where we have certain crypto assets which are in some phantom classification that is not contemplated under MiCA, and therefore we don't know what to do to them. Every crypto asset has to be classified under MiCA. It's either, again, a general crypto asset, ART, EMT, or something which is not within MiCA's purview, such as a financial instrument. You can't have a crypto asset which exists in a vacuum and no one knows how it's classified.
Okay.
You can't.
But isn't there like a group that we can say that are other crypto assets, as you mentioned before? So like what would be there? And I have another example, maybe. I'm not sure if that will help or not, but there are e-money tokens today that already have an e-money license. And they are going to become e-money tokens later because they need to comply with MiCA as well. Now they're only complying with the e-money part. What is and where is this difference here with them? If by substance they would be very similar to something else that we will have completely new now, and they will first get the compliance under MiCA, and then there will be questions around what are they within the payments as well, and how are we looking at both of those tokens as stable coins from the part of the payments rules.
The reason why I'm making this conversation is because I want to showcase that, unfortunately, the strategy followed by DG FISMA was not a regulation about tokens. It was a regulation that tried to push tokens into old boxes, new beasts into old boxes. So, payment services regulation, this is the box. Let's try to push the token in there. security, this is the box, let's push it here. Utility token, consumer protection, let's push it here. Whenever we have a beast that is not defined within the frameworks of this regulation, either we need to create a new regulation or a new title. For example, NFTs. NFTs, we disagreed already. NFTs is not part of MiCA at all. It's clear in the article. However, we need to figure out what we are going to do with them. And this is part of the conversation that needs to be introduced by the European Commission by the 30th of December, how we treat NFTs. Quick fix, bespoke regime, or do nothing. When the token is outside of the strict description of what qualifies the token with this label, it's something undefined. And this creates a lot of problems. But even if it is within the space, and if you issue another token, Title 2, in Slovenia, and in Germany, exactly the same token, because we don't have a common definition about what's qualified as a security, is considered differently in Germany, and BaFin says, no, 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 this is a security in my jurisdiction, the expected answer to this was, we go to Luxembourg. And what the Luxembourg replies? They reply that there is no hierarchy between MiFID and MiCA, which is a terrible answer. This opens the sack of Aeolos, as we say in Greece. Because practically, you cannot deny passport, but effectively, the implementation of MiCA on this kind of stuff is expected to be a very difficult process. And the 99% of the national competence authorities are not familiar with the topic. To answer also to the Victor's question.
Any comments, Jonathan, on this?
No, the only thing I want to add is that I can tell you the next 2 years are going to be chaos. I don't use that term lightly. It's going to be pure chaos out there, both from the National Competent Authority side, both from, again, the subject of MiCA themselves. There's going to be so much uncertainty out there, ultimately because, if we think that MiCA is a redressed form of MiFID, that's not the case. In fact, even the definition of an investment firm versus the definition of CASP are not the same. One talks about a legal entity, the other talks about a legal person or other undertaking. That on its own is already a massive difference. Mm-hmm. One requires the services to be provided to clients in order to qualify as a CASP. An investment firm talks about the provision of services to third parties, or therefore focusing more. So again, I don't want to emphasize today's discussion, but simply put, it's going to be quite an interesting 2 years ahead. It is clear that, again, there's a lot, I would say, of perhaps misalignment of views, even between ESMA and the legislator itself, because I do recall clearly that in one of the consultation papers, ESMA politely opined that it is not yet clear what was the intention of the legislator by conveying the spirit in terms of, again, the exemption under recital, or rather not an exemption, recital 22 stating that only those offering services in a fully decentralized manner, what was meant by the legislator then. Again, it's a recital, it's not the definition itself, but still a recital is important because it conveys the spirit of the legislator. So all this goes to show that, going back to Dimitris' very early point in today's discussion, again, the recital states that MiCA was created in order to regulate utility tokens. I mean, again, it's quite clear that utility tokens are only a subset of other crypto assets under Title II. In reality, as Dimitris said in his very interesting story, I think perhaps the event with Libra was a bit of a push for the European legislators to go ahead with MiCA. There was also, of course, the FTX incident, but ultimately we're talking about a massive body of text, which I think will be close to around 1,000 words, regulating an industry which is very much embryonic. It's been around with us only 10 years. It's developing at a very rapid pace. I would venture to say that already certain parts of MiCA are outdated, because that's the pace at which the industry is evolving. So to conclude and to state once again, buckle up, because these next 2 years are just going to be a headache for everyone.
So my last question, my last comment to what you said, I remember when...
Marina,
Yeah.
sorry, I don't want to interrupt. MiCA is a text full of meaningless jargon. For example, many parliamentarians added words over there in order to sound a little bit smart. For example, sufficiently decentralized. And you push this idea then to the poor people of ESMA, who need to create a meaningful interpretation of what sufficient means. Or you have this wonderful line in the recital that if the NFT is part of a collectible, and you had these poor people in ESMA trying to interpret what part of a collectible is, and we saw these funny consultations generating problems again and again, because there is a lot of meaningless wording over there. Ideally, MiCA should be 30 pages, very clear, and the e-money tokens, part of the e-money directive. Outside, just like we kept the securities outside of MiCA, for exactly the same reason, the e-money tokens shouldn't be there. We had to amend the e-money directive. However, this was not what happened. And during the negotiations, I still remember everybody was so confused about the asset reference tokens and Libra. Nobody paid attention in making 10 amendments for the e-money part of the story. Everybody was concerned about the other reference tokens, the asset reference tokens. It's crazy. Bad politics. Back to you, Mariana. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's important, because historical interpretation of a law, of how a law was finalized, it's very important, and we have the proof here. So this will be a video forever for every student in the future that will go back and want to study MiCA. They will know what was happening at the time. And for the just last few comments, I wanted to somehow evaluate your opinion on MiCA, its value, and its also a role in a global regulation of stablecoins in general.
The practitioners first.
I mean, let's look at the current state of the stablecoin market, right? And I think also reference to Dimitris' point, I think, which was made earlier on as well. The majority of stablecoins out there are denominated in the US dollar, not in the euro. At the same time, as Dimitris pointed out, let's say the EU, in terms of it being a monetary union, and also the power of the euro itself, is undisputed. But again, we cannot commingle what is happening in the stablecoin market necessarily with what is happening in the European market. What's going to change for those major stablecoins denominated in the US dollar? Ultimately, it boils down to whether they will be seeking admission to trading or doing a public offering in the EU. Chances are that some of them will do so, some of them will not. For those who will not opt to do either, I would venture to say nothing much changes in their regard. About stable coins denominated in euro, that's where MiCA will be quite impactful, because MiCA is very clear on that. And MiCA claims jurisdiction over any stablecoin denominated in euro or an official currency of an EU. So the interest and what our eyes should be on is how this will impact or promote the development of euro-pegged stablecoins. Will they increase in legitimacy? Will we potentially see them being used more often as a means of exchange, perhaps, within the EU? And if so, how could potentially the cap which is imposed on such stablecoins used as a means of exchange, maybe will it hamper the growth of such stablecoins in the EU, and therefore they serve as a bit of a double-edged sword? That remains to be seen. But I would say for any other stablecoins which are not denominated in the euro or an official currency of an EU member state, I don't think MiCA will be that effective or will change anything much in that regard.
Yes, I agree. And now back to the negotiations phase and the original drafting phase. The idea of the Brussels effect was always in our minds. We wanted to create a first mover's advantage for the European Union, effectively structure a market, and we did successfully, to some extent successfully with GDPR, we wanted something similar for the case of the crypto assets. Now, in practice, did we achieve this? From the text I see coming from the other side of the Atlantic, with all those bills introduced by the parliamentarians, the congressmen, the senators in the United States, I see the footprint of MiCA in every suggestion they make. I see similar approaches here in the UK, and I don't know if they are going to replicate or improve the approach of MiCA, especially in reference to the stable coins and the crypto asset service providers, but I will see a lot of similarities from the very beginning. And I see already the similarities in other than MiCA topics. For example, the case of SSR, which is the UK's DLT pilot regime. They improved MiCA on 6 areas that we messed up. So people are capable in evolving this. And this is also good for Europe, because a best practice originated in another country can be an example for us to improve the text. And MiCA is not written in stone. There is already a conversation. I don't know if I should share this with the audience, but there is some conversation right now of introducing a MiCA 2 at some point in the second half of 2025. A MiCA 2 that will include staking, a MiCA 2 that will maybe include NFTs, clearly, and other things that may pop up until then. So it's evolutionary. It's evolutionary. Yes, we have some first movers advantage, followed by a second movers advantage, and this never ends.
If I may just add to what Dimitris said, I am and will remain one of the harshest critics of MiCA, but ultimately...
Why? It's so
No,
beautiful.
Wait. It's still a monumental piece of legislation, and I think it is also setting the standard for other jurisdictions. And again, it's clear that the Brussels effect in this regard is being felt in other jurisdictions as well. So again, regardless of the fact that, again, I like to pick holes in MiCA, I think I consider it as a hobby of mine, but still one can't deny that, again, this is the most advanced effort to date in terms of crypto legislation.
No regulation is perfect, but our guests were. So thank you so much for joining us. It was a brilliant discussion, and thank you for everyone following. We'll hope to do this again in person or maybe online sometimes. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.